migration to intertrade, the whole system of AI, artificial intelligence that was discussed, very topics that came up in the last 2 days. And of course, each one of them had its own merit in terms of the theme of the conference of the New World Order. But the subject matter which we are discussing today, I believe, is perhaps the most important. And that is to do, of course, with the finance and economics. Without finance and economics, one cannot see how we can progress in other areas of the situation which we normally deal with. The aspects of work that takes place in the finance industry, in the different economies around the world, is huge. There has been, I think, dramatic transformation in the global financial system over the years, and particularly in the last later part of the 20th century. Huge complexities and dynamics of this sector with vital implications for the future of the global economic development and the system is taking place. I recall a few years ago, a prominent member in the Merrill Lynch, Alex Petelis, referred to that we do need a new world financial order, and we will probably get it as a side effect of the whole crisis that we are facing in this world. So without taking much time, we are fortunate to have a very distinguished panel of speakers from different parts of the world who have been involved in the issues of finance and economics over the years. We will have the opportunity to hear from them, but if I may start with Dr. NEDAL ALCHAAR, who was the former Minister of Finance and Trade in Syria, been the Secretary General of the regulatory body AOFI over the last number of years, serves on a number of international boards, has written a number of papers on this subject as well. So if I may start with you, Dr. NEDAL, being the former Minister of Trade and Finance, and during that period you were involved, of course, with the governmental issues and intergovernmental as well. How do we see the changes that have taken place now from the time you were at that particular time to the current situation in terms of how the dramatic change that is taking in the system, the financial system at the moment? Yes.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and I'm very happy to be in here. In fact, I'm honored to be with you all. This is my first time attending this beautiful gathering, and I'm really gratified by this. Actually, Your Excellency, this is a very tough question. You're asking someone who is having a little part to do with a small country that has a minute role in the whole world, banking and finance. Syria is such a small country. It's ruled in a different way than other countries are ruled and governed. It's pretty much a totalitarian system. Our role was not really significant, but we were witnesses to what's taking place in the world in terms of finance and the financial system as a whole. I would like to draw from my previous experience as the Secretary General of IOFI, which is a regulating body for Islamic banking and finance, and my role as a director at Fannie Mae, which is the famous company in the U.S. dealing with mortgage finance industry. We can summarize the whole thing. After 2009, this ugly experience that we had, I think the world finance system today is a bit more immune than it is before. But there are so many elements and factors projected to play a role in the future of the world economy or the world order. And I would like to mention a few of them because the list is so long. Today we have artificial intelligence, and I think this is something that would play a significant role in shaping up the world economy. AI, artificial intelligence, is still at its embryonic stage. It has not matured, yet we see considerable impact of AI on everything we do today. starting from smart governments all the way to 3D printing, whatever you name it. I think this will make a real impact, a profound impact on the way we do businesses. As you know, AI does not have the emotions that human beings do have. Traders do have emotions. Traders do have some traits, most important of which is greed. We hope that artificial intelligence will not have this trait, and it will not be greedy as human beings, and that would shape up the world finance system in a better way, we hope. The other factor we can talk about is renewable energy. I think this will play a significant role as well in the new world finance. As we know, conventional energy today is characterized by a monopolistic market. It is a monopoly. Some areas have it, some areas don't have it, and that calls for some politics, and that calls for some self-serving interest to play a role. We hope renewable energy at one point in the future will be accessible to everybody. All countries will have access to renewable energy, and that will cut or eliminate this monopolistic situation enjoyed by oil and gas per se. This will also change the way we do finance, the way we do trade, and the way we do things. These, I would say, are the major factors. There is a third factor that is now emerging, and I don't know how the translator will translate it to Turkish, which is ruling by tweeting. This is something new. Trump has introduced to the world a new way of dealing with things, a new way of managing things, a new way of dealing politics by going on Twitter and tweeting. And every day he tweets something, the market goes up and down. If you were to watch the Dow Jones on all the major indices for the last 3 years, you would see that the beta and the gamma of those markets have changed dramatically. Some days the Dow Jones will go down by 700 points, the other day will go up by 800 points. We've never seen such fluctuations just because Mr. Trump has decided to tweet something, be it the trade with China or something else or with Europe, and the whole market will act accordingly. So this is, if this is to continue, I think it will create new characteristics in the market that we have not seen before. People or traders in general tend to be more protective of their own interests. So when they see this situation being repeated by other coming presidents, I think they will develop the tools to protect themselves. Yeah. So this is pretty much what's taking place. Now, many people today are expecting a collapse in the world economy to be coming in the 2020, and I'm sure you guys have heard, those statements coming here, even in the summit. I don't believe so. I don't think the world is at the verge of collapse. I don't think the world economy would collapse. The interest is so high. I think it's too powerful to collapse today than what it was in 2007, 2008. Anybody who claims that 2009 came as a surprise is not really in the market, was not in the market, was not aware of what was taking place. Yeah. Most experts expected this collapse in 2009, beginning late 90s, when people started buying mortgages right and left, when people are getting debts from banks right and left, when papers are not checked, when you apply for a loan and you get it just because you have a nice smile. And that was the beginning and the prelude to this collapse that we witnessed 2009.
Sure. Dr. We will come to these particular points later on as well, when we have a bit more interaction with the panelists. You referred to the artificial intelligence and particular reference to emotion. But it's quite interesting in the session that we had yesterday that I think it's a matter of time before emotion is also been filtered through into artificial intelligence. That will be really a huge development, and it will affect the dynamics of the economic and the financial system, because the tweets that we have and the impact it has on the Wall Street and all that, one could imagine how the whole system is going to take it in.
Exactly, and I would agree that emotions can be included as a factor, but it will be an input. It will be manufactured emotions. It will not be spontaneous as human beings or emotions, because human being emotions are developed spontaneously. any input into your AI system regarding emotions has to be structured before, engineered, built in, and then fed into your instruments.
Sure.
So it's pretty much the trajectory is known.
Wonderful. Let me bring in our good friend TARİK KABBAJ, who is the president of the TK Advisory Group from Orlando. TARİK has been involved with the issue of wealth management with a number of clients in USA, and of course had a huge experience with the banking industry as well, serving as a vice president of the banking group in, again, USA as well. TARİK, how do you see the system in USA? I mean, USA plays a leading role in terms of messages coming into the Western economies through the Federal Reserve, although the whole system of the Federal Reserve is wearing down over the years. But in terms of the experience that you have had in dealing with the clientele and dealing with the European side of it, do you see much of a synergy and much of a change is taking place now?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. This is my first time in this beautiful country, and I was stunned by Istanbul and by the people and by this great organization, so thank you for having me. I think Dr. NEDAL, Your Excellency, he already put the nail on the head, speaking about everything that we discussed earlier. And the funny part is, when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catch the cold. I don't know if you heard that before. And the economy over in the US is very controlling in the whole world. So when something happens in the US, in the market, it really affects the European markets. And if we talk about just now in the political issue, we have like the tweet for Mr. President, you know, that can create a big panic in not only in Democratic Party but also on the Republican Party and all the parties in the U.S. A global, there is the bad, the ugly, and the good. So there is no good without bad and ugly. And I think the bad and ugly already passed it. There is no toward new world order by the perspective of finance and the economy without a geopolitical system. So, and I think a lot of things happen between U.S., China, Russia issue, the Brexit that creates really big panic, and the war in Syria, migration, and also, unfortunately, the ugly is that the fair trade in the world went from a fair trade to protectionism system, okay? And because there is no fair game, other countries, they created laws. They said, okay, if you do business with this country or this country. To answer your question, I'm sorry I took a little longer on that. I lived in Orlando. I am from Orlando, Florida. So I'm a banker. We did what we call no-docs loans, and I lived the success between 2004, 2008. Everybody was happy. Everybody was tripling their money. Real estate in Orlando and Florida in general. You can buy a house today for $200,000. You can sell it 2 weeks later for $250,000. That was like amazing. 2009, the clock stopped and the crisis started feeling. It doesn't mean that we didn't expect it. We were expecting it and we knew it's going to happen. But the greed of people, and you know, we are a consumer country, we don't stop. We knew it's coming, but we didn't know when the clock going to stop. So we kept buying and buying and buying.
But Tariq,
and a lot of people
can I interject? In terms of the confidence in the communities there, with the financial system, especially after the failures and the huge disaster in the later part of 2000, are we seeing that sort of level of confidence building up and seeing that the new system, whatever being offered, is more sustainable in the long term?
And this is the good part. 2019 and 2018, Florida GDP, it hit the $1 trillion. This is the place where the economy was dead. This is the place where you can't find a job. This is the place where they had a lot of crises. Banks, they were closing like pancakes, you know, like you could, you know, thousands and thousands of banks. But the key is that the government got a little bit involved on the market, on the economy, and the politics got involved a little bit in the banking system. And sometimes it's good that a system that's government needs to be involved and help that.
Okay.
The funny part is when the economy is doing good, the perception is not doing good among people. And when the perception is doing good, you look at the economy is not doing good. There is a little space and time between the perception and the true measure of the economy. Today, economy, like in Orlando, it's doing fantastic. We hit the $1 trillion on our GDP. We were the 17th fastest growing economy, not only in the US, this is in the whole world. We surpassed Saudi Arabia, we surpassed Switzerland, and major countries in the world. So we were number 17. We had over 78 million visitors with our Disney World and Universal Studios, Mickey Mouse, and the Terminator. And we had over 118 million visitors within the people from inside the US. Okay. Right. So the economy is doing fantastic, and I think there are a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah.
The involvement of the government, it's good. I think now with the Trump administration is more involved on easing again the banking. I think the TARP money that's helped us. A lot of banks took advantage of that, and I worked with Morgan Stanley and Merrill before, and some other companies, they took that money even though they didn't need it. Fine. And they took advantage of it. So perception is growing. Yeah. There are a lot of opportunities. We are looking for green cities. We're looking for artificial intelligence. Fine. Lockheed Martin is there. They are doing a great job. We're trying to create a new Silicon Valley.
Fine, So yeah, we'll catch up with this on the second round as we move along on the other areas that we have referred to in terms of the whole issues of confidence. Let me bring in JUNAID WAHEDNA. JUNAID, you are the founder and the group CEO of Wahed Invest. And it says the first and the largest Islamic digital wealth management platform in the world. Now that's quite a message that comes out across in terms of the product that you are bringing in. Can you just explain as to what this is and how does it really fit in with the new global financial system you're working on?
Absolutely. So good evening and salam alaikum everyone. To give you a quick background of what we're doing. So I studied in the US, I did my master's at Columbia, worked in investment banking, and we realized that there was a huge problem in the world. And that problem was people who are not wealthy, who are not rich, don't have the avenues to invest their money as most of us privileged people have today. So what would happen is there would be increasing inequality in the world. I hope and pray that in the future this is addressed by our future financial system and the new world order as it would be. Our mission and how it relates to the Islamic aspect, I'll elaborate on that. So it's actually not only Islamic and for Muslims. In Islam, in Christianity, in Judaism, we all have a concept of usury, of riba, as we call it. It is, we believe, unethical, and it causes widespread inequality. To give you a real-world example of how that works today, let's say a banking institution, whatever bank it may be. If you are poor and you're not a wealthy individual, you use credit cards to buy your everyday goods. The interest is, let's say, 3% a month, 30% a year, APR, and probably more. If you're wealthy, you can take a loan for 3% a year, 4% a year. So there is a natural mathematical bias against people who are poor, just to be able to take in that money supply. So inequality gets more and more and more as money is funneled through banks. For us, what we wanted to do is say, look, you don't need to keep your excess savings in banking institutions anymore. The world markets are efficient enough and liquid enough where you can invest any amount of money and we will invest it for you like you're a multimillionaire. So it was a very simple concept where we said, look, we will connect to all the stock exchanges in the world. So initially we got the SEC license in the US and we launched this app. It's basically a tech play because we all know tomorrow it's all going to be tech driven. Google starting their bank. Good luck to everyone else once they do that. So in a matter of months, we had clients in the US from all 50 states. You had people, pastors, practicing Muslims, practicing Jews from Alaska, from Hawaii, from the weirdest places, sending us money online. We have no branches, we have no people. So when we realized that this is a huge need, we replicated it globally. So we got the FCA regulation in the UK, we launched there. Now Malaysia, we're doing 1,000 clients a week organically. Kazakhstan for the CIS, Mauritius for Africa. And as of today, we have clients from over 100 countries. So what do we do special? Nothing. It's very simple, and the reason I'm emphasizing that is today people want ethics. They want to know their money is not going to arms manufacture and weapons. They want to know it's not going to promote inequality. They want to know it's not being used for pornography or tobacco. Previously, you wouldn't know where your money is going. Do you know what the bank does with your money, who it gives loans to, or where your portfolio manager invests the money? Today, we can do that. We can give you complete transparency. People, even if they invest $100, which there's no minimum, we can tell them exactly where it's gone and how ethical that is. And I believe the future of the economy, as we see it, is going to be very geared towards ethics. We are seeing the youth today with access to information, with exposure, with the more globalized world. Ethics is going to be at the forefront of the economy. And I know I took a bit of a shift to the other panelists and not involving AI and all of that. But I think technology, ethics, for me, are a foundation to tomorrow's world. And we as WAHED, the company we set up, are proud to so far be leading that initiative.
Is it sort of, Junaid, when you mentioned about the availability of the product to every person on the street, basically, it's a minimum of what, $100, £100 to come in. A product which is regulated, in terms of the registration and the system which we have to follow through to ensure that there is no sort of shortcuts and where the funds can be misused or sort of. How do you see this level of confidence in the community where a new system, a new product has been introduced, a new company has come in? And is there some sort of safeguards? For example, in the UK, we have the banking law which protects a depositor with £80,000 or so, yes, some odd figure, yes, which would give you the comfort that, God forbid, if the bank would go bust, at least you will be protected with that amount. Is there some sort of safeguards that are available within the product?
Absolutely. So currently we're regulated by 7 jurisdictions. Of course, it depends which jurisdiction you fall under. So US SEC, I think it's $500,000 FDIC insurance. Okay. UK is 85,000, same with the FCA. So it really depends on the jurisdiction. For the rest of the countries, obviously, I said we have clients from 100 countries. It depends which jurisdiction they fall into.
So all the protection is there. It's being offered in this
Absolutely. See, these regulators ensure, that's their job, right, to make sure the client money is safe. We are catering to the pure retail client, right? Like you said, the minimum investment we take, because it's all app-based, we don't have to pay for advisors or branches, it's $100. You have people who are just starting their investment journey who are able to invest in a fully diversified portfolio in stocks, in commodities, in sukuk, and have a world-class investment committee manage it for them, which would never be possible previously. You would need $1 million, $500,000. In fact, in some countries, even then it's not possible. You have to go outside, to Switzerland or wherever. So we do believe technology today breaks down these barriers completely, really helping in this whole inequality spectrum, which is increasingly more important in the world. And like I said, for tomorrow's world and economic world, I do believe that inequality and how that is dealt with and ethics is a primary factor to what will shape the world tomorrow, because at the end of the day, the consumer will choose what happens. In the US, if you see today, the most popular financial institutions, they're all apps. You have the youth coming in and millions of users, all China, with Lufax and all these apps. These are surpassing banks in numbers like this. It's unbelievable. Lufax today have 40 million customers. I think that's more than the mainstream global banks. It's unbelievable how quickly they grow. Yeah. For us, in one country, we're doing 1,000 clients a week with no marketing. It's crazy.
So this basically shows the potential where a product comes in, it fits in with the mindset on the ground, that there is an alternative product to the mainstream that's being offered. Very, very interesting. Anyhow, we'll catch up with that as well. Let me bring in now our last panelist, Mr. MALİK KERİMOV, originally from Russia, who I believe has been involved in the Russian-Turkish interparliamentary relations. a former deputy member of the Russian parliament, a doctor of political science at Istanbul University, and specializes in Russian trade, Turkish-Russian trade and economic relations. Dr. Malik, how, I believe, yes, we may require a translation here. Will you be able to? Okay, no problem. Could we hear from you in terms of the relationship that you have between Russia and Turkey, and how you envisage it relating to the existing systems in the West, which we have, the financial system, and what sort of input do we see coming in from your relationship with Russia on that?
Saygıdeğer katılımcılar, saygıdeğer misafirler, hepinizi selamlıyorum. Ben bu katılıma Rusya adına katılıyorum ama özellikle Uluslararası İşbirliği Platformu'nun kuruluşunda emeği geçen herkese teşekkür etmek isterim. Başta Çingiz abimiz olmak üzere ve özellikle bu kuruma beni davet eden Profesör Doktor Nevzat Yalçıntaş hocamı rahmetle anıyorum. Çünkü bu kuruma ben ilk kurum bu Uluslararası İşbirliği Platformu kurulanda rahmetli Nevzat Yalçıntaş hocam, biz aynı zamanda Rusya-Türkiye Parlamentosu Dostluk Grubu koordinatörüydüm ben o zaman. Rahmetli Nevzat Yalçıntaş hocamız Rusya-Türkiye Parlamentosu Dostluk Grubu başkanıydı. Dünyada bu global ekonomik ve uluslararası ilişkileri sorunlarını dünyaya tanıtmak için bu kurumun kurulmasında beni de burada bulunmamı tavsiye etti ve Türk dünyasından ve Sovyetler ülkesinden akademisyen, siyasi ve bilim adamlarını buraya davet edip bu kurumda katkım olmamı istedi. Onun için ben bugün bu kuruma 10. seferde katılıyorum ve burada sizleri de görmek beni çok mutlu ediyor. Konum o değil. Konum ben doktoramı zaten siyaset ve uluslararası ilişkiler Rusya-Türkiye ekonomik ilişkilerinde yaptığım için hem ekonomiye hem siyasete dokunacağım. Çünkü Rusya-Türkiye Parlamentosu Dostluk Grubu koordinatörü o demektir ki zaten Rusya'da yaşayan Türk iş adamlarının insan haklarını biz savunuyoruz. Aynı zamanda da Türkiye'de yaşayan ve çalışan Rus iş adamlarının insan haklarını, ekonomi sorunlarını ve gündem yaşam sorunlarıyla ilgileniyor. Onun için bu konu benim için de çok önemli. Buraya davet eden beni insanlara da özellikle bir teşekkür ediyorum ve konumuza katkıda bulunmak istiyorum. Özellikle ekonomiye ben bazı katkıda bulunmak istiyorum çünkü benim konum finans konusu olmadığı için hem ekonomiyle bir şeydir ki ekonomi zaten ilişkiler olmadan ne kadar ekonomik ilişkiler bir o kadar olumlu olursa siyaset o kadar olumlu olur. Bugün daha çok bizim konumuz Rusya-Türkiye ilişkileri. Ben Rusya-Türkiye ilişkilerini daha çok çalıştığım için Rusya-Türkiye arasında olan ilişkileri size aktarmak istiyorum ve dünyada olan jeopolitik konulara dokunmak istiyorum. Yeni dünya düzeni insanların insanca yaşaması ve ekonomik faktörleri o önemli sayfa getirmektedir. Model ise Müslüman insan modelidir. Helal daire, helal kazanç. Bugün İslami ekonomi, küresel ekonomiye ayrılmaz bir parçasıdır. İslam ekonomisinin toplam varlıklarının 4,5 trilyon dolardan fazla olduğu tahmin ediliyor. Bu yıl içinde 7 trilyon dolara yükselmesi bekleniyor. Müslüman ülkeleri bölgesel ve küresel düzeyde güvenlik ve istikrar sağlama koşullarına medeniyetler ve dinler arası diyalogu sağlamada Rusya'nın geleneksel ortakları. Bugün özellikle Rusya'da halihazırda Sovyetler ülkesi dağılandan sonra İslami yatırımlara çok önem veriyorlar. Halihazırda Tataristan bölgesinde helal gıda yatırımına ve Expo çok aktif bugün çok iştirak ediyor. Başkırstan'da, Tataristan'da, Dağıstan'da. Hatta bu Expo çok aktif iştirak ettiğiler için Türk dünyasının ve Orta Doğu'dan da insanların hatta bize ricada bulunup o Expo'da iştirak etmelerini istiyoruz. Çünkü bizim Sovyetler ülkesinden sonra bu yeni İslami gıda konusunda daha aktif çalışmamız lazım ve bu konuda çok Malezya'dan daha çok örnek aldık halihazırda. Malezya bu konuda bizlere daha çok yardım ediyor. Ama buna bakmayarak da yine bugün Sberbank diye bizim Merkez Bankası'nın büyük bir bankamız var. O banka halihazırda Rusya'da bölge farklı bölümlerde 16 trilyon rubleye yakın İslami bir işbirliği içinde olacaktır. 2018'de hatta 1 trilyon ruble olarak İslami bölümler açılıyor halihazırda. İnsanlar çünkü İslam'a halihazırda biliyorsunuz Rusya Federasyonu'nda 22 milyonla 25 milyon arasında Müslüman yaşıyor. 5 milyon Türk asıllı insan yaşıyor. Onun için Rusya Federasyonu da halihazırda bu İslami katkılarda ve insanların giderlerini ve finans ekonomik ilişkilerine daha büyük destek vermeye çalışıyor.
Sorry, Mr. Malik, if I can just come in up here. You referred to the economies in terms of how the relation between Turkey and Russia and
Yeah.
Working on the halal industry.
Yeah.
Is this something which is Turkey is trying to provide that products and the market for halal products, or is it the other way around?
Ya bugün halihazırda Rusya'da sadece helal gıda değil de tekstil ürünleri de çok aktif, özellikle mesela Tataristan ve Dağıstan, Çeçenistan bölgelerinde.
Halal product,
Helal. Bugün Tataristan'da mesela ben 2 aylık orada araştırma görevinde bulundum. Tataristan'da helal gıda özel marketler vardır. Özel marketlerde hatta süpermarketlerde bile bugün ayrı helal gıda ürünleri satılıyor. Hatta bile mağazalarda bile helal çay satmaya başladılar. Bazı insanlar da ekonomik elbette değerlerden değerlenerek helal çayın yani helalı yani onu bile satmaya başladılar. Onun için bugün özellikle giyim elbise üzerinde çok aktif mesela bayanların konusunda bugün Rusya o konuda çok iyi gelişiyor. Yani helala halihazırda baş müftülükte bizim özellikle sertifikat bugün mikroslarda ve dükkanlarda özellikle bazı insanlara helal sertifikat veriyorlar. O helal sertifikatlarla bütün Rusya'nın her bölgesinde helal gıda bugün görebiliriz yani halihazırda. Onun için bu konuda Türkiye'nin de elbette Türkiye'de bu konuda biz çok bayağı Türkiye'den desteği alıyoruz. Halihazırda banka sistemlerine de bir dokunmak istiyorum mesela. Banka sistemi, finans sistemi daha çok Dubai'da.
Mr. Malik, can we deal with on the second round?
Okay.
So that we can cover
Okay.
the other matters as well. Thank you. No, that's useful to understand how economic systems between the two countries can assist in advancing trade and, of course, improve the relative current balances in each of the countries. Can we touch the second area, Dr. Nader, which on Islamic finance, since you've been involved as the Secretary General of the regulatory body, OFE. I recall when I was the Secretary General of the Muslim Council of Britain, and or in fact prior to that, early 1990s, we had late A.D. George, who was the governor at the Bank of England. And at that time, we were quite interested to see if Islamic banking, Islamic Sharia compliant products can be offered to the Muslim community in the UK, and of course those beyond that in terms of ethical finance and ethical trade as well. He was quite interested to find out how this can be introduced in the UK market, and Lord Welf is up here with us as well, and it was at that initial time when we had that very positive response from him that we took it up, and he set up a small committee and felt that this was something to be looked at, because of course we had the conventional system at that time working, making it quite clear that those who wanted, for example, Sharia compliant mortgages, they couldn't get it in the UK, and he was trying to understand how this could be brought in. And I found at that particular time the interest generally with the people in the financial key bodies, including the Bank of England, the FSAs, the traditional banks, the Barclays banks, and the Midland at that time, all were quite keen to understand how this Islamic banking can be brought in and how it can benefit the communities at large, to the extent that the government showed interest. And we had Gordon Brown, at that time then the Chancellor of Exchequer, to attend our conference on Islamic trade and finance in London. And I recall at that conference where he said he would want Britain to be gateway to Islamic finance. So the huge interest that had come in, how do you see that we've seen progression in terms of in theory and in practice in different parts of the world? As I do not see the progress that we had originally seen, to the extent that David Cameron three years ago at the summit in London, the World Islamic Economic Forum, where he launched the first sukuk and accepted it as a way forward. So it's a huge landmark decisions that were taken. But where do we stand today? How do you see the things? Are we really moving in, progressing well, or are we at a stalemate in terms of the other systems of finance other than the conventional system?
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think you're making it so tough for me because I'm going to be now touching on a very sensitive area, which is religious beliefs and also those issues. I was like you, like everyone else, excited about the introduction of Islamic banking and finance as a new way of doing business that would satisfies your beliefs. And it's a type of worship, you practice when you do Islamic banking and finance. And this is convincing. It's legitimate for Muslims to ask for that. Now, we have to differentiate here between two types of demands. We have indigenous demand, which is the demand by Muslims because they want to do banking, Islamic banking, as a way of worshiping God and adhering to God's rules. And then we have non-indigenous demand, which is the outsiders, the British you talked about, the Singaporeans, the Europeans, the Americans. Those guys are not coming because they want to do, worship, the act of worship. They're coming to tap on resources that was not bankable in the past. They wanted to make these resources, this wealth that is in the hands of Muslims around the world and has no access to the world financial market, they want to give it access and tap on that resources and invest for them. Now, when you say the Islamic banking and finance size today is 5 trillion, that's very impressive, of course. We're talking about 20 years. But if you dissect, if you slice and cut this 5 trillion, it's really not indigenous. It's not really Islamic. It's a brand. Unfortunately, Islamic banking and finance became a brand. What we have done over the years, and I know some people don't agree with what I'm about to say, but I was deeply involved in that process. We were not doing Sharia-compliant products. We were Islamizing financial products. We were taking a conventional product and threatening it, challenging it, and saying, you either become Muslim or we will not use you. This was really the whole story. We were Islamizing products by force. Today, some Islamic financial institutions are dealing with CFDs, with futures, with options. They buy and sell for you commodities every day under the brand of murabaha, under the brand of mutajara, all those terminologies that are very scary because when you think of murabaha, right away your mind goes to profit, and profit is halal in Islam, of course. Usury is not. So this whole branding is not really real. I had wished, and I had dreamed, and that was the reason I left. I had dreamed that we will have true Islamic banking and finance, and it would be sufficient to have few products. But no, we wanted to be the jack of all trades. We wanted to do everything Islamic way. It cannot be done. There is absolutely no way you can do derivatives in an Islamic way, regardless of how you slice it and cut it and squeeze it. Now, if you want to use our twisting, take a product, twist its arms, and make it Islam, and say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, I am Muslim now, that's your choice. But that's funny.
Yeah.
You are betraying your audience.
You're making an impressive point.
Strong
Dr. Reza.
statements, because I'm
if I may-
emotionally
Sure.
moved by this.
In fact, I would concur with most of what you have said. But isn't this a key principle that when we talk about Sharia compliant product, it's not a product that just for the benefit of the Muslim community, but it should be available and beneficial to the masses at large, irrespective of what faith you come from.
Of course.
Because it's more ethically based, as we had earlier heard about it.
Now,
Is this the issue that really concerns us?
Again, monopolizing ethics is not a good thing to call for. There are so many international and conventional funds today that are very ethical. I would not accept for Islamic banking and finance to monopolize, to claim that they are the only ethical, traders or ethical investors. There are so many funds today around the world that are extremely ethical, and some people don't invest except in these funds. Let me go back. Very important point here when we talking about Islamic banking and finance, and now I agree that I'm speaking in a bit of a negative tone. Let's talk about the positives. Islamic banking and finance actually give access to people to the banking system that they wouldn't have had. Impossible. It was through Islamic banking and finance we made millions and millions and millions of people in Pakistan, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in the Arab world, in Africa, bankable. Now, when you make someone bankable, when someone uses the bank, you are moving at a different layer of standard of living. You are giving them access to schooling, you're giving them access to surplus, financial surplus. They will use that surplus to send their kids to school. They'll use that surplus to buy books. They'll use that surplus to buy iPad and instruments. So we have delivered the world a great benefit. But we should have continued in that line, in that path. We should not have, forced conventional products to become Islamic just because we want to prove to the world that we have the right way.
Sure. I take your point. I think that's extremely important point that you've made. Tariq, what we have heard from Dr. Nader in terms of the misconception and sadly the abuse and not really following in the proper manner, do we see much of this crisis happening in the USA and the way the Islamic finance is being introduced and brought up there?
Well, my previous life as a financial advisor, and I had the chance to work with Amana funds and Azad funds.
Yeah.
There are two things.
Sorry, I'm conscious of the time, so if we could be brief so that we could cover all that panels, please.
Something that's very important, Americans are very religious and very conservative country. We have a misperception of America that we love taking risk and things like that. This changed since the millennium came in the picture. And we have what we call social responsibility. It's been always part of the portfolio. Christian Americans, they invest more on the Assad and Amana Sharia as Islamic funds, not because of religious. Keep in mind, they use that as because the right thing to do. And the right thing to do, that's what I used to tell my clients. I remember I had Muslim clients and he says, Tariq, if you said this is halal, I'll do it. And I started laughing. I said, I'm not sheikh, I'm not a scholar, but why you're saying? He said, listen, if something happened, you take the blame for it. And seriously, and he wants me to take the blame to do something, and I am not. I am a good guy who want to take care of my clients, do the right thing. America we have misperception. I want you to know that we don't like to invest on guns. We refuse to invest on porn or tobacco. This is big. I mean, if you won't see anyone smoking on the streets later, and we are working so hard to ban the vaping and things like that. So my main thing is we have to do the right thing. And I think I tell always people we need to go back to basics. Yeah. And I think we created so many new words, so many technical economy words, and we use them, and then economists will say something, and now he's famous, or I will come up with this word. Do the right thing.
So
do the right thing for your kids.
What we are saying is that if it is based on ethics in terms of the ethical funds that we are talking about,
if we do
that doesn't really, because I know when the whole issue of Islamic finance was very much prominent in the UK, and there was an interesting article in the Tablet magazine, which is the Catholic magazine in the UK, and one of the, I think it was a reverend or pastor or someone who said, I wish it was simply called ethical banking, ethical, then we would be part of it.
Exactly.
So sometimes the connotation of calling it Islamic or so has its negative way of it as well.
Exactly. I'm going to end this just with the quick quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who says one time, there is enough for everyone's need.
Yeah.
But there is not enough for everyone's greed.
Yeah. Okay, Junaid, in terms of the product, again, we have got literally a minute or so. Good points have been raised about the concerns in terms of, in practice, whether the Sharia-compliant products are they really working in the way we should do, as per the experts. How do you see the reaction from the community on this?
So I'll be very quick and brief here. Firstly, like you rightly said, we're not scholars and we're not sheikh, and I don't think we are qualified to be commenting on structures. Islamic finance is a very vague term. It could mean anything. Yeah. Finance general. There's the banking side of it, which Dr. NEDAL, I think, was referring to. And yeah, sure, it's an oxymoron. Islamic bank, it sounds funny because the bank isn't allowed, it's a lending institution for profit. But there's also takaful. There's also wealth management. It's very, very broad. And I do not think it's fair to paint it all under one brush. In terms of the American economy, I think it's changing now a bit, but I have to disagree. I think if you see the top constituents, you have Lockheed Martin, you have some really unethical, they're arms manufacturers, right? I see all the indices every day, and there's all sorts of, unethical stuff. Yes, it is moving, for sure. There's a huge shift in SRI. As Wahed, why did we set it up? We set it up because we believed Islamic banks weren't doing their job, with all due respect to them. We ran a survey, very interesting survey. Very good reception. We asked people, how many people believe Islamic banks are Sharia compliant? Mm-hmm. It sounds ridiculous. Yeah. 84% of practicing Muslims do not believe Islamic banks are Sharia compliant. Okay. Yes. And that blew our mind. Yeah. Because they're like, look, they're just gift wrapping it. It's more expensive. It's less efficient. They're really bad institutions. So we come in saying, look, it's risk reward. The only way is to keep it transparent, to keep it vanilla, and invest your money. You take the risk. Yes, it can go down, it can go up. There's no guaranteed return in life. It doesn't work like that unless you become a usurious financial institution. Good. So that's how I see it.
Okay, Junaid. That's, again, quite an important angle through which one is to understand. Finally, Mr. Malik, I know you're more interested on the economy side. But is there something that you see as far as the future is concerned? What areas you would wish that we would need to bring in terms of Russian-Turkish collaboration, which could benefit the economies of both the countries?
Çok teşekkür ederim.
Very briefly, we have already run out of time. So
Zaten benim çok değerli bir hocam hep derdi, ekonomi ilişkileri olmadan siyasi ilim olmaz. Ama ben özellikle bir konuya dokunmak istiyorum. Yeni dünya düzeni, yeni radikal dervişle açık ekonomik oluşum ve sisteme ihtiyacı var. Ve maalesef bugün kapitalizm maalesef dünyayı bir felakete sürüklüyor. Zengin ve fakir arasında uçurum bugün var. Ben halihazırda istiyorum ki bugün bakıyorsan ki Türkiye'de 3,5 milyona yakın mülteci var. Ama Müslüman İslam dünyasından hiçbirinden bir yardım görmüyorum. Bu mesela bir çok açık uçurum var. Aynı fakirle zengin arasında olduğu gibi. Özellikle İslam dünyasında bugün global dünyada görüyoruz ki mesela için İslam dünyası özellikle bir yere finans yatırım yapmak istiyor ama birbirine güvenmiyorlar. Türkiye, İran, Suudi Arabistan arasında rekabet var. Onlar kendi aralarında birbirini çekebilmiyor. Ben de bugün bunu bir öneride bulunmak istiyorum. Bugün Azerbaycan'da 32'ye yakın millet yaşıyor. Sünni ve Şia yaşıyor daha çok. Azerbaycan bugün dine çok radikal bir bakıyor. Çok radikal ve demokrasi dinle olumludur. Halihazırda istiyorum ki İslam dünyası Kafkaz bölgesine finans yatırımı yapsın. Mesela bu konuda Azerbaycan çok olumludur. Her bir devlet ve çok iyi Türkiye de oraya yatırım yapar. İyi. Rusya da çok iyi bakar bu konuda. Suudi Arabistan da bakar, İran da bakar ve farklı Arap ülkeleri de. Çünkü Kafkaz'da ister istemez bir sorunların yaşanmaması için özellikle büyük devletler ister istemez bugün daha çok Sünni ve Şia arasında sorun yaratıyorlar. Dünya zaten Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı Tayyip Erdoğan dediği gibi dünya beşten küçük değil yani. Bugün maalesef dünyada çok hemen bitiriyorum. Dünyada maalesef çok yanlış insanlar, global büyük devletler kendi çıkarları için küçük devletleri ve özellikle son Suriye'de gördüğünüz olayları kendilerinin çıkarları için her şeyi yapıyorlar. Özellikle petrol enerji olan yerde kendi çıkarlarını yapmak için orada istediği teröristlere destek veriyor. İnanıyorum ki İslam devleti, İslam dünyası ağırlı olup bir finans, ekonomik yatırıma destek vermeleri ve bunu da Kafkas'ta özellikle Azerbaycan'da yaratmaları lazım. Teşekkür ederim.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we can conclude with a very positive note. Indeed, there are concerns and there are controversies around, but one remains optimist that we have to find solutions to the crises that are prevailing in different parts of the world. I think the alternative systems of finance needs to be looked at. There's no doubt about it. There's much more tuning to be done to do with Islamic finance and Islamic banking, and it's a matter of time before we see the various alternative forms of finance available that can be beneficial to all of us. So may I take the opportunity again to thank our panelists for their input that has come up. Greatly appreciated. I think there were good points that have come up. Thanks to the audience for bearing with us on this afternoon after lunch. I hope you find it useful and interesting, and we very much hope that we'll be able to continue with our further discussion and dialogue in the future. Many, many thanks to all of you.
And thank you very much for this very comprehensive discussion. I kindly ask you to briefly remain on stage as I invite Professor Gül Günver Turan, ICP board member, to present you with plaques of appreciation. Thank you very much, Sir IQBAL SACRANIE, our esteemed moderator. And Dr. NEDAL, ALCHAAR, thank you very much for being with us. Yes, we will have a group photograph. And thank you very much, Mr. TARİK KABBAJ. Mr. JUNAID WAHEDNA. Thank you for joining us today. And Mr. MALİK KERİMOV. Thank you for your contributions. We will also have a group photograph all together. Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you.